Years ago, Spelunky and RPG elements met at a bar. They had a few drinks, they talked the night away. It felt as if they'd known each other for years. Sometime later, there was a serendipitous moment where they ran into each other at the store, and again, there was this connection that... I'm sorry, they had sex and now we have Vagante. Welcome to the Indie Game Review series, where we take a look at games made by smaller teams, and I give my thoughts on mechanics, level design, music, flow, and anything else I think is relevant. This video, while it is a review and may have some criticisms, is coming from a place of serious respect for indie game devs. I haven't released a game myself, but I have a fair bit of experience in most aspects of game development, so I know how tough game dev can be. As frustrating and fulfilling as any of the mainstream roguelites, Vagante brings all that you'd expect from this genre, with added fantasy RPG aspects like enchanted gear, classes, and leveling. This easily ranks up there with Enter the Gungeon, Noita, and Underminer for me. The atmosphere is perfectly set with this mountainous backdrop, the wagon carrying our player, and music that delivers an adventurous, exploratory tone. Upon hitting new game, there's a smooth transition to our destination where we choose our class and background. There is multiplayer, but we're introverts on this channel, so we have no need for that. We have a choice of 5 classes: Knight, Rogue, Mage, Wildling, and Houndmaster, all of which start with different stats and equipment. I tend to go with the Knight for survivability and ease of use, but all classes are fun to experience and learn. The next choice we make is selecting our background, which range from speed bonuses and reduced fall damage to being rewarded in a boost of stats for every floor completed without using armor. There are so many to choose from, but a lot of the time I either go with Survivor, which increases the healing received when sitting at bonfires, or Stoic, which reduces status effect duration because poison can be a bit of a problem later on, especially if you're not using ranged attacks. So we are spawned into my favorite kind of cave system, the procedurally generated kind, filled with monsters, secrets, and traps. Immediately we are faced with dart traps. Traps were the bane of my existence when I was learning this game, but you learn how to spot and activate or avoid them as you go. Don't get me wrong, they still end my runs, even now, constantly. Combat is simple to start. It can get more complicated with skills later on. Know the swing speed and range of your weapon and figure out how it affects your player's movement. You're going to want to think about your fights a bit more if you're locked in place for a couple seconds swinging a Dragon Slayer. Also keep in mind the class you chose, as your stats are already tailored for specific weapon types. If you pick up a spell as a Knight, you'll have very limited uses and low damage, but it's still great to have for a backup weapon. Oh hey, a boss fight. Oh hey, spikes. Round 2. I unfortunately wasn't able to acquire very much gear before fighting the Goblin King, but the bosses in the first area aren't anything too crazy once you know how to cheese, once you come up with a fair and effective strat with which to defeat them. You don't need to kill the boss of any area to proceed, but if you do, they drop a key which opens a big chest somewhere in the level. Or you could forget about the loot and open a door to one of the secret areas. So we made it to our first bonfire where we're healed a bit and we can assign our first skill point. Here we have the inventory, which is just a grid that you'll need to organize yourself, and if you don't organize your inventory, regardless of the game, who hurt you? There's a spell screen to show your learned spells, and a stat screen that shows things like strength, dexterity, resistances, attack speed, all that kind of stuff. We've encountered a fairy. Odds are that I'll forget, but if you bring her with you to the next bonfire, every time you rest at a fire, you will get bonus healing. Just don't hit her or get her killed, because, she doesn't like that. After a fight with a dragon that I chose to fight legitimately only because I'm doing a game review, we find ourselves in possession of a Dragon Slayer. Pretty sweet. It's profoundly slow, but very powerful. It's one of those weapons that you'll really want the proper build or knowledge of what you're fighting before attempting to use because it leaves you so open to attacks. On level 3 of the caves, we find a Mimic, and I forget how to switch my weapon, so I struggle. Oh hey, spikes. Vagante just hands out insta-deaths, so have fun with that. On the next run, we pick up a decent dagger. Gear and weapons have a very wide range of effects like bonuses to stats, or even effects like turning into mist when hit or a chance to freeze attackers. Oh hey, more spikes. I'm gonna focus a little more on the game and a little less on my notes. But like I was saying, gear can have many positive effects like the ones I listed, but it can also have debuffs and be cursed, which is why it's a good idea to identify the gear you're going to equip and potions and scrolls you're planning on using. It's pretty likely, though, that you'll have to identify the Identify scroll to identify stuff. This run is going well. After an okay Goblin King kill and some nice dragon cheese, I dealt with the Alaskan Bullworm. We now make our way to stage 2, the forest. The challenge has now been ramped up a bit with bow-wielding jumpy boys and 8-leg jumpy boys. The bosses here also require more thought if you're using melee. At this point, I like having something that reflects projectiles. It's very useful here. Vinelord was most of the reason I chose the stoic background, because it's been a while since I've played and I knew I'd be a wonky wallaby and just rush him. Now would be a fantastic time to talk about shrines since I'm almost dead. Shrines are scattered around and grant rewards for offerings from the player. The light shrine heals you when you offer gold. This is something you'll want to utilize, especially if you're just starting out or partake in silly goosery like me. We also have gear we don't need. Rather than throwing it away, we will make use of it at the Smith Shrine. This shrine accepts dropped gear, and for every few pieces you drop, we'll offer a new random piece of equipment. I recommend figuring out what all the shrines do, because at least one has something to offer your playthrough. This game is very difficult, and there is a learning curve. During my entire session for getting footage, I've only reached the catacombs once. It has been a while since I've played, but still. I actually can't comment too much on the difficulty of the side areas because this playthrough is the first time I've went to one. You have to always be on the lookout for traps, be aware of how enemies attack, plan for future encounters and areas, and be patient. A tiny mistake can be severely punished, but it still feels balanced and refined. The first half of the game is balanced anyway. The catacombs provide a significant boost in difficulty, but are still pretty doable if you're prepared. The Rift provides such a difficulty spike that I don't think I can call it balanced and refined. My opinion may be inaccurate though, because I've only been there a handful of times. Vagante has so much to offer. You can see by the wall of positive reviews, this game has an impact on people. The procedural levels and randomized, everything always provide a brand new experience, a brand new world to explore, as your ass is handed to you by a wide array of enemies that all require a different approach. There are so many secrets to discover and small tricks you'll accidentally learn as you play that will help every playthrough. Your gear, background, and levels all play a huge part in your player's build and will influence your playstyle. The art is gorgeous and consistent, while the music is a perfect complement to whatever environment you're in. So yeah, basically, I can't recommend this game enough. If you have any thoughts, know of a game, or released a game yourself and you'd like me to take a look at it, let me know in the comments. My socials and music are in the description. Don't forget to show these devs and their work some love, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.